So local authorities have these powers under the Housing Act 2004 and other statutes whereby they can request information and documents in relation to private rented properties, and they're usually doing this in order to carry out their licensing functions. So they're requesting information in order to determine whether the property is an HMO, whether it requires a licence, and who the most appropriate person to licence the property is. The sort of information they usually are asking for, they'll write to perhaps the landlord or the owner and ask them to state what their interest in the property is. So they'll want to know whether the person is the landlord, whether they're the owner, whether they're the agent. They'll also want to know who's occupying the property, and if there are tenants in the property, whether they have individual or joint tenancy agreements, how long the tenancies are for, and certain questions like that. They'll also want to know who's receiving the rent for the property, and that's an important question because they are often trying to determine who is in control of the property. They'll want to know who is responsible for repairing a property, and again that's to determine who is managing the property. And they might have other questions as well, such as whether there is a mortgagee, so whether there's a lender providing a mortgage for the property, and want to know anything else about who has an interest in the property. They might also request documents to be produced, such as copies of the tenancy agreement, copies of statement accounts so they can see where the rent is being paid, and also things like gas safety certificates to see if the landlords are complying with their legal obligations. So if you are served with a notice requesting information, you must act immediately. Do not ignore the notice, and that is because if you fail to comply with providing the information in the time set out in the notice, which is usually around 14 days, then you will be committing a criminal offence, and the local authority can prosecute you, and if you are convicted you can be fined. Up until earlier this year, that the fine for this type of offence was capped at £5,000. However, this cap was removed as of March 2015, so fines for this sort of offence are now unlimited. So act quickly and do respond to the notice, and if you have any questions or if you want any assistance, then contact Anthony Gold.